Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bo and Joe Show. I'm here with my co-host, Bodine Sanders. I'm going to start it out. We had a few technical difficulties, and Bodine got a little flustered. How's it going over there now, Bodine? Are you calm, cool, calm and collected?
I'm all set up, ready to rock and roll.
All right, you're looking fresh and fine over there. I have my new computer. We're good to go. So what do you think? There's been a lot in the world of sports going on this week. A lot of controversy, as always. I don't know where you want to start, but I think there's a lot to cover. We'll probably run out of time as usual.
Yeah, there is a lot to cover. I mean, I've got baseball, football, golf. There's a ton. So wherever you want to start, let's jump at it.
All right. Well, I think we should start with the Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols. We've said we were going to jump in there a few times, and we haven't. And now it's back in the forefront of the news again. I don't know if you read this story, but they've taken and really displaced Rachel Nichols. She's off the network, essentially. They're going to continue to pay her contract throughout the course of the year. But I'm a little bit torn on the conflict. I don't know what you think about it, but I agree with her sentiments that ESPN really, I believe her comment was, I wrote it down, they have a crappy long time record on diversity. And her position was that it shouldn't necessarily be on her back. She shouldn't carry Rachel should not carry Maria Taylor's. She shouldn't be, essentially the show shouldn't be taken away from her to accommodate Maria Taylor. I'm torn about it because I think that Maria should have been given a chance, but here's my thought on it. Why didn't they displace a man? Why did they have to take away, right? Why did they have to take away the one female anchor and take away, why does it have to be two women against each other? There's plenty of room on that network. Why take away the one woman show? I don't like the way she went about it, but when I look at it from that perspective, I do think that something else could have been done. She probably shouldn't have been speaking out of turn about it, but there are plenty of men on there. Why take the one woman covering the NBA and displace her?
Yeah, it is. It's a tough situation for Maria Taylor to be put in, for Rachel to be put in, but you can't also, don't forget the young lady who just came aboard ESPN, who's the sideline reporter. She's a young pup, so to speak, and she's, looking at these mature, seasoned vets, have this issue. And so it became a bad role model situation for that young person trying to establish herself, right? And then there's the person who actually distributed the soundbite to Maria Taylor, who was also a female. So in the end, it's just not fair all the way around. But from my perspective as a former athlete, number one, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? So in that respect, Rachel, even though she didn't know she was being recorded, she's a seasoned vet. She should have known as a seasoned vet to make sure everything is shut down, meaning no hot mic situations, right? I could see a young person making that mistake, but as a seasoned vet who's went from one network to another network and then came back, right?
Right.
She should know better. Sure. Can you blame Maria Taylor for using that opportunity to elevate her contract and then turn around and walked away from that because she got a better deal at another network, right? So it worked out for her. In retrospect, it hadn't worked out for Rachel because now she's off air. She can't do anything. She's got to wait because I'm sure her contract states you can't do anything with any other network until your contract is done, right? Maybe she can do a podcast, maybe, I'm not sure. So yeah, it's a horrible situation all around, and these are the things that happen. These are the things you want to avoid, right? So that's why when we first met, what did I say to you? My goal is to stay in my lane. I'm not trying to be all things to all people, because that's not why I wrote my book, to be all things to all people, right? So, you know, hey, sometimes you make the big money, right? You're going to be scrutinized from A to Z. She should have seen that movie before, and so it's just unfortunate, because believe me, Rachel is really good. She's always been good. She's established herself. And Maria Taylor really doesn't have as much experience as Rachel do when you look at it, but she, as a former athlete, was able to resonate with the fan base. So she elevated herself very quickly. So, I mean, it's just a bad situation all around.
Agreed, but you failed to address my point. Why didn't we displace a man? Right? Why did we have to pit these women against each other when how many men are on the ESPN network? I think that I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that. I'd like to see that at some point where, you know, the women don't have to start out on the sidelines and work their way out to the one coveted position on the network and then have to be pitted against each other. And unfortunately, you know, of course, and I'm sure there is substance to it. Obviously, there is a race issue there as well, and that, you know, that was a launching pad too. And Maria certainly deserved a chance, certainly, and I think that she's going to do well. And we'll see. I mean, hopefully Rachel is able to recover. Because I do think that she had a point about the network, and it didn't necessarily have to be on her back. And I agree, she should have kept quiet. And if that's the way you felt. And I wonder if those two women were friends before that or just rivals. That would be interesting, right?
That can't, again, I've never been to the campus. I've only seen it from TV. That campus is so big, and depending on, I don't think they were ever in the same space at the same time. So the chances are, I mean, I'm sure they know each other. They've had conversations maybe, but you know, I'm not sure if they've ever, and I don't remember if they've ever been on the same set, right? So, again, it's a shame, but Rachel will land on her feet just like Maria Taylor landed on her feet. And I watched a couple of off-network commentary about former ESPN anchors, and they'd had, and then most of them were African American or minorities, and they had their own perspective of the situation. I don't know Rachel, right? I mean, we're Monday morning quarterbacking right now, right? Don't know Rachel. I don't think she intended the comment to be as bad as it sounded. She was basically acknowledging that from her perspective, the lack of diversity here, she shouldn't have to receive the negative end of it.
Agreed. And that's why I think it was unjust. You know, so Jason has a question, and Jason and Justin are both on. We got the Bodine, since the Disney takeover of ESPN, have you noticed that there is way more drama and negativity coming from that network?
Well, you know why. Each of the anchors and folks that work there have they're represented by an agent, right? This is big time, right? So you have to have an agent. If you get hired there and you don't have an agent, you will soon have an agent after that, right? So you have these agencies competing against other agencies, and within an agency, you have competition amongst the reps in the agency. So you've got CAA. There's a couple of other agencies that represent the anchors and the media personalities. And so there's competition all of the time. right? All the time, trying to get that big contract, right? Trying to get that Stephen A. Smith contract, right?
Right.
Right? Because Boomer's gone, right? Boomer, who was a flagship, is gone. I'm sure Mike Greenberg is, he's an institution, so he's doing well. So yeah, there's competition, right? And so, again, looking at it from the outside, should they try to find a way to get a handle on that? But I'm sure that's what HR is for, right? So, listen, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. If I had an opportunity to be on ESPN, I'd take it. Now, would I want to do what they're doing? No. I'd like to be on ESPN from a perspective of talking about diversity and inclusion, right? Not from the being at the, walking in Stephen A. Smith's shoes or any of the former or current anchors' shoes. I think they need someone who can come at this from a different perspective with a sports background and offer some advice to them. I think I could do that. If somebody can get this tape to the ESPN powers that be, because I wouldn't want to work there in terms of trying to achieve the position of Stephen A. Smith or Mike Greenberg. I would come at it from the space that I am in. So I would be a neutral co-worker looking at it from a different perspective and go from there. But yes, I followed ESPN from the day it started. I mean, there's lots of Villanova contacts or alumni that have had relationships with ESPN.
So Jason's also asking, do you think Stuart Scott could survive in today's media world? He was groundbreaking in his time.
Stuart Scott would be, where Stephen A. Smith is now, right? So when Stuart Scott passed, that opened the door for Stephen A. Smith to elevate himself. And so, listen, I met Stephen A. Smith once. Joe, did I ever tell you that story?
No, let's hear it.
No. It's not some outrageous story. Stephen A. Smith is from the Philly area, right? He wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer, right? So I know of Stephen A. Smith from him covering the local sports, college ball, pro ball here before he ascended at ESPN. So in other words, I met Stephen A. Smith when he was driving a Honda Accord. I'm pretty sure he's not driving a Honda Accord right now, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'd rather leave it there. Put it that way. That's got to be self-explanatory. He's not driving a Honda Accord right now, and he's definitely not living where he was 20 years ago, because he's got a big place. So yeah, I mean, things have changed.
Things have definitely changed. So Isaiah, welcome to the show. Isaiah is saying he hopes ESPN gets Will Cain or Skip Bayless back to debate Stephen A. He loves that show. Hate the fact that Max has gone off First Take.
I believe it or not, I absolutely appreciate Skip Bayless. I know a lot of people don't like Skip Bayless and don't like his shtick, because a lot of them, basically it's their shtick, right? What is it? How do you differentiate yourself from the other anchors? What is it you do that attracts attention, right? So I like Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless basically helped Stephen A. Smith along, right? So if there is trouble at Fox Sports 1 and Skip could be on his way back, hey, it's a payday for him. Number one, it's going to drive ratings again, and that's the game that they're all playing. right?
It is.
It's like free agency in football, basketball, hockey, baseball. It's a game. So, and we as the fans, the viewing fans have to deal with it, right? And
Right.
Joe, this is going to be a part of your fantasy football.
Oh no.
Right? You can't just look at the stats when you're watching football. You've got to look at, is the player getting along with his offensive coordinator, right? Is the player attitude positive or negative? Because that can have an effect on his playing time the next week if he doesn't correct his behavior during practice week. So that's also how you can determine who you're going to start and who you're going to sit and all that stuff. It's that's why football is the number one sport in the world.
Football is good. So there's a lot. Let's segue into the NFL. There's a lot going on there. A lot surrounding the vaccination debates. So we have the Cam.
Justin kept me updated. So go ahead.
Well, we got the Cam Newton, that whole spectacle. He's certainly opening up the door to his secondary quarterback, right? There was supposedly a testing mishap. He has stated he's not going to get vaccinated, and the rules of the Patriots organization says that he has to be tested, I believe, daily on site, and he chose to get tested someplace else, and so now he's out of practice until Thursday, and Bill Belichick said, it's a big week for his. Well, what's the secondary quarterback's name? Mac Jones.
Jones.
Yeah, so Mac Jones, and it has a chance to step it up, and I think Cam Newton has been controversial last year. The same thing, he disappeared, and it caused a big controversy. And we talked about this last week about how these quarterbacks, in our opinion, should be stepping up and acting as the leader and not allowing the teams to be derailed. I understand the free choice of vaccination, and I'm torn about it, but I think you're right. If you're going to be a leader in an organization and you're getting paid the big dollars, and then you should be stepping up and doing what's best for your teammates.
Oh, no question. No question. He's a distraction. And with Mac Jones coming from Alabama, winning the national championship, Cam is putting himself in a difficult situation. He's putting the coaches in a difficult situation. He's putting the team in a difficult situation, right? So he basically opened the door for Jones to get the early playing time. Guess what? If Jones does just okay and they're winning games, somebody not getting their job back, right? I mean, we all know what happened how Tom Brady became the starting quarterback. The starting quarterback got hurt, and it was over, right? No turning back after Bill Belichick said, Tom, get in there. It was no turning back. Bill Belichick is not a traditional coach. He's going to go with what his gut tells him to do. And if Jones is doing well, biased, hometown guy, Jacksonville, Florida, give him a shot. Hey.
Not only that, I mean, think about the pressure on the team. Tom Brady they're chasing Tom Brady's shadow now, right? His coattails. He won the Super Bowl last year. It certainly has to be an incentive for Bill Belichick, and I'm sure he didn't love that. And now they don't want any distractions. They don't want Cam to be distracting anybody on the field. So I do have to put this comment up, and I assume he's talking about me, the greatest woman in sports. So thank you, Will Paulson. I appreciate that. George is here. George is saying, Drew Bledsoe was out and Brady went in. I've seen this movie before. That's the truth. So that's funny. And Justin is saying Justin is a big Patriots fan. Bill Belichick gave a high five to Mac Jones and the training camp joint practice versus the Giants. So, I think there's something to be said for that. If you get along well, and we've spoken about this, if you get along well with your coach, it certainly makes life easier.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no question. And Cam Newton knows better. He's a seasoned vet. He knows better. So, you make the bed you lay in. So, I mean, you can't reinvent the wheel in the NFL. That's like fighting City Hall. Not gonna happen. You got to go with the flow, or you're out, or you're on the bench and you're not playing. Coaches don't have time. They don't want to tolerate distractions because they're responsible for too many people. There's a difference between coaching 15 to 18 guys in basketball versus 55 to 65 in the NFL. They just don't have the patience for it. So he knows.
And there's also I don't know if it's controversial, but it's 4 Buffalo Bills are out as well because they were exposed to a trainer. So I think COVID's going to be shaking things up, especially as we're going into the season and people are going to be indoors more. It'll be interesting to see what happens and if games need to be suspended. I just wonder what the trajectory and the blueprint of the season is going to be, because I do believe that COVID is going to have an impact.
You don't normally hear about fist fights in locker rooms. You can see it on the practice field during preseason, right? Because the cameras are there. Probably you can count on one hand reported fist fights in an NFL locker room in the past 10 to 15 years. Reported. I tell you what, remember what I said, don't mess with a grown man's money. If things get out of hand, there will be some serious fist fights in those locker rooms. And it won't be pretty. You're talking about grown men who can bench press 300 pounds and more, squat 600 pounds and more, wearing 300 to 400 pounds with all the equipment on. I'm telling you, it can get ugly very fast when you mess with a grown man's money. A man who's married, got kids, got a big mortgage because he got a 10,000 square foot house or more. Oh no, it's gonna get ugly. So we'll see.
We'll see. And, and this is going to sound a tiny bit stereotypical, but not all of there are many players in the NFL who aren't known for their anger management skills. So, that's
yeah. Oh, no. It's an emotional sport. Absolutely. But, and athletes are taught to control their emotions on the field. That's where you can get the penalties and hurt the team. In the locker room, gloves are off. Gloves are off in the locker room. There's no camera in the locker room, right? The coaches aren't going to be in the locker room when it happens. It's going to get ugly. So, yeah.
I'm surprised there aren't cameras in the locker room with cell phones today. Is that like violating the sanctuary of the locker room? The players would go crazy. Oh,
yeah. Don't do that. The last time that happened, the player who did it, he got a lot of hate. I don't like using that word. He got a lot of disrespectful messages. You don't do that, right? You don't videotape anything and then release it to the public. So no, it's not a good thing. So yeah. The locker room is as private as your home because you spend all that time in that locker room, right? It's your second home. You treat it as your second home. That's why when you start messing with someone's money and not getting vaccinated, being around people without a mask and then getting infected, and then you're going to hurt the team, it's going to be interesting. We will be having this conversation again, Joe.
We will.
I guarantee you we will. And it's disappointing that Cole Beasley from the Bills is part of that group because he was very vocal about not getting his shot. And all of a sudden, look what happened.
Right. Yep. So I think we're going to have this conversation every week, or the opportunity to have it. Maybe we won't discuss it every week, but there will be an opportunity to discuss it. So what else is going on in the NFL? You're more privy to it than I am. I read a few stories, and that's what I have on my agenda. What about you?
Well, you got a couple of injuries. Thanks, Justin. He kept me updated on the rookie from Clemson, who is on my hometown Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Etienne is how you pronounce his last name. He's a running back. He's out for the season. So you lose a weapon when you have your rookie #1 draft pick quarterback, right? Who's a rookie. And then you lose a weapon that you can dump the ball off to, like Tom Brady will dump the ball off to the running backs, because you don't want your quarterback getting hit. Quarterbacks get hit when they hold on to the ball. So you want a skilled running back who can catch the ball out of the backfield and get up the field. So that hurts. Let's see how they can overcome that. And I think there's a couple of other injuries. Our former quarterback for the Eagles, who's now with the Colts, he got hurt early in preseason, and he's trying to make his way back, because based on how much he plays this year will determine what our draft pick is that we were given part of that deal. So what an agent.
Agent saying Etienne, if you look at him, he's the smallest player who would have the propensity to get hurt. There was no surprise there for him.
Yeah, but it was Ferris. It was a fluke. It was one of those fluke things where he takes the ball, he runs into a crowd. Someone must have either stepped on his foot, or when he went to make a cut to get outside all of the chaos in terms of folks trying to tackle him, he might have just turned the foot the wrong way. It's one of those, put it this way, Michael Jordan had a fluke foot injury his rookie year, and look what happened to him after that. So, it's one of those things that I don't think it's going to be serious for his career, but he's done for the season. And so, let's see what happens.
So, George, this is actually on my list. George is bringing up something that Teddy Bridgewater was named the starter in Denver. Should be great for Jerry Jeudy, and that Etienne injury hurt my fantasy.
See, guys are thinking fantasy. See what happens? Hey, listen, Teddy Bridgewater is a great story. Joe, I don't know how much you know about Teddy Bridgewater.
I know a little bit. And I'll tell you what the compelling part of the story is for me when you're done. But you go ahead, take your first.
No, I'm just happy for him. He's a great guy based on what we know and the reports. And he suffered that horrible knee injury, leg injury, fought his way back, and teams have, he's taking advantage of teams giving him the opportunity. And hey, as a starter, I'm just happy for him, because he's really a good kid, a good young man. Look at me calling somebody a kid, a good young man, and he deserves and probably earned it, right? And not just deserve it, he earned it. So he's one of those feel-good stories. Go ahead.
So I think I found it very amusing that, Drew Lock, they were pitted against each other, and they kept factoring in age. And I thought it was pretty comical in some respects. Teddy is 28 and Drew's 24. It's not like Tom Brady. We're talking 4 years, two men in their 20s, but they don't typically throw out the players' ages. They just continuously kept putting that out there. And I just thought it was so funny. Can really 4 years in your 20s make that big a difference? I think not.
It's based on Yeah, it's based on experience. Go ahead.
I'm going to say the stats, I read about Teddy Bridgewater's stats, and he's certainly impressive. And if they compare them side by side with the numbers, yes, he has more experience, but his numbers were phenomenal in my opinion, and my limited knowledge of football. But yeah, somehow he's the underdog, and I always like when the underdog comes out on top. Adrian saying he's surprised he beat out Locke, interested to see if he keeps it, and he does deserve it. So I think we're all on the same page there.
Well, listen, while my man Ferris is sending in those questions, we definitely got to talk about baseball, because I think it's 30. Ferris, how many games left in baseball? 30, 20? We're getting close to the fall classic, so we need to talk about having him on as a guest to talk baseball. So we won't forget that, because what is it, 30 games, 40 games left? I'm not sure, but it's getting close, right? We're almost at the beginning of September. So we're not that far from October, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll have a special series. He said around 35. Adrian Ferris, it could, he could come on every week until the World Series. Who knows? I'll leave it up to your discretion. You gentlemen can hammer that out.
Okay.
I think, speaking of baseball, here's a story that I was very attracted to this week. The Little League World Series. They had, some phenomenal players on there. A young kid, Gavin Weir, 12 years old. He threw 4 no-hitters in the World Series so far, and it's very impressive. He's been deemed the best pitcher in the country, and he struck out 114 opposing batters. I mean, I think that's pretty phenomenal.
Yes, and I didn't watch a lot of it. I watched a little of it, but I did see the highlights of the young lady who hit 2 great singles for her team. So she's now in that, in that stratosphere of a young lady competing with the boys and doing well. So the more we keep seeing that, the more it's going to just elevate diversity and equal opportunity. We get it at least once a year or once every other year, right? So it's a good thing. Absolutely.
So her name is Ella Bruning, and not only is she's a starting catcher for her team, but not only is she a great fielder, they said she's also an amazing hitter, and she's a phenomenal base stealer. So I think stealing the bases is pretty tough. So Adrian saying, great to see the Little League World Series back. The fact that there is only a U.S. bracket has changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. But it's still some phenomenal players, and it gives us a national spotlight. And I think the kids actually really need something after the past year. So
I think they're having fun. I mean, I haven't watched maybe as much as you have. I did watch, one Saturday, and I probably watched like 3 hours. They were having fun. The kids were doing, they were just enjoying themselves. But the young lady that you and I were just talking about, I saw her 2 hits, and she could swing that bat. So hopefully her team advanced, and I'll give it keep watching her. I don't know if did her team advance or not.
I'm not sure. I'm sure Justin will tell us. Adrian saying he's looking forward to the international teams coming back. Yeah, I agree. I think that, it's a Little League World Series, so it should be an international playing field. But I do believe that kids in our country, and across the world, of course, but the kids in our country, I like that the more players were able to take advantage of it, because they have been cooped up for a year, and it was really something that they needed. And the reality is they may be shut down again coming into the next season. Who knows? So I was happy to see it, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a great sport. And something else I found, the Paralympics are going on. Today was the opening day. The U.S.
Really?
The men's wheelchair lacrosse team beat, and I watched it, actually. I wanted to take a look at it. It's really competitive, and I think that their athletic prowess is pretty amazing, and to be able to maneuver those wheelchairs, and then to also be ball handlers, and you have to wheel the chair into the end zone. I don't know if that's what it's called in lacrosse, the point to score a point. I was pretty enthralled with it. And I'm trying to watch more of that because I think that's really, that speaks to adversity, diversity, our whole concept of athletics, and it's so inclusive. That inclusion just broadens up the perspective of sports in the field for me. I don't think I've ever watched it before, so I found it pretty compelling.
I got introduced to Special Olympics when I was at Villanova. I don't know if they still do. They probably do, but they were really, really big on Special Olympics on campus. And I volunteered when I was in school. That's like 30 plus years ago. And I had a great time. It was, I was able to learn something from the athletes, which gave me a different perspective, even more so because I always have thought that I had a different perspective on sports based on my upbringing and my hurdles to get to compete and play football. But it just gave me a different perspective, and I appreciated that. So my memory of it might be foggy, but it was a positive experience, and I enjoyed it.
Right. So what about the U.S. Open? We got they announced today, which I found very surprising. They are not going to require proof of vaccination or masks at the U.S. Open. I found that pretty interesting. It's an outside venue, but I think the Williams sisters are out. That's another interesting story. Right. I think Serena has been chasing for the past 3 years the Grand Slam goal, which I think is it 40? I think I wrote it down, but I don't remember exactly how many Grand Slams. She's turning 40 in September, so I think her window is closing. She's been chasing the all-time Grand Slam singles record of 24 championships held by Margaret Court. So I don't know how many she has. Yeah, she has a hamstring injury, so she backed out. How many Grand Slams does she have, Justin or Adrian? I don't know if you know that. So it's going to be a different U.S. Open. Venus is out as well. She thinks she has a knee injury. So both the sisters are out for the first time in a long time.
Well, yeah. And they probably, once one was out, the other is like, listen, I'm not going to compete in the doubles if that's part of the U.S. Open, right? The team doubles or whatever it's called. So they kind of own that. But when you first said the U.S. Open, I was like, hold on.
Oh, the golf?
There's golf U.S. Open too. So which one is she talking about? True. But usually the golf U.S. Open is earlier, like either just before the Masters or just after it. So, but yeah, I like tennis. I wrote about it in my book. I have the original tennis racket that I was given from the tennis instructor at Cheney University. So that tennis racket I own is almost 40 years old. Wow. Can you believe that?
No.
So I do like tennis, and it's just a step below my love of golf. Since those two things I can play. But if someone really pissed me off and wanted to put on a helmet and shoulder pads and do an Oklahoma drill, I might be convinced to do that.
Right.
But other than that, I'm staying away from football.
All right, I'll have to get my pads out, I guess, Bodine, if that's a challenge.
No. No. If I'm going to hurt myself, I want to do it and do an Oklahoma drill with a guy that I don't like. So I can, because if I'm going to hurt myself, I want to make sure I hurt him too. But,
well, here's some wise, sage advice here from Adrian. Think twice about that.
See, he knows my mental personality when it comes to football. Oh my goodness, that is so funny. I'd like to think he will hold me back.
Your body deceives you at this age, Adrian's telling you.
Oh,
That's certainly true.
he's right. He's right.
So
He's right.
Justin and Adrian both pointed out that Serena has 23, so she's one shy of tying.
The record.
Yeah, I didn't realize how close it was. So that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right, so what's on your agenda? I think that covers all my items.
Well, let's talk golf since we just mentioned golf.
Okay.
Golf Digest is golf magazine.
Yep.
And their issue that's I get the e-version, or at least the promotional e-version. And the issue is, can you believe it's been 25 years since Tiger Woods debuted in 1996?
That's amazing.
25 years. So the question that they pose is, what if there was no Tiger Woods, or if he never came along? What would golf be like, or what would that 25-year experience would be like? And that's hard to answer. I don't want to say it's hard to answer, because some people might say, well, it would have never taken off the way it did, right? It would have never elevated the way that it did because of Tiger. The purse money, the winnings for the winner of the tournament, the second place, third place, that money was elevated because of Tiger, because sponsorships, TV contracts, all of that, right? So he's made a lot of folks on the PGA Tour very wealthy.
I agree. I think it wouldn't, then still golf is not very diversified. It still would, at least Tiger opened that door. And Adrian is saying it would, great point, it would be what it was before Tiger, right? But I think not. I think Tiger's story is what was so compelling, right? He's a young kid. His father mentored him. That relationship was so endearing and touching, and they capitalized on that. And then what happened was then the turn. And then, his personal life and the sensationalism, it just drove the story. And I don't even recall golf being on TV very often before that time, right? It was just like maybe on a Sunday early morning, and now it's not necessarily in prime time, but it's certainly highlighted on Saturdays and Sundays. Has a whole channel now, right? We have the Golf Channel. It's pretty popular, and I think more people do it. I think it elevated the game for women too.
Oh, of course it did.
Because more women I know play golf than ever before, and I think it was just a sport. And it made it seem fun too. Remember, golf used to be this old man game. And Tiger made it seem fun and relevant and exciting. And he would be joking around with the caddies. And I just think he elevated the game in so many respects.
Well, I also remember I wrote a little bit about golf in my book, about how my roommates introduced me to golf on Sundays. When just before we would watch golf, either during the season, football season, or during the off season, but we would watch golf on Sundays. And depending on how hungry we were, we would go to Popeye's Chicken and get our food, our dinner, and come back. And we would just watch golf all day long. That was my introduction. I thought it was boring prior to my teammates getting me into it, explaining the sport as I sat and watched. So I kind of had to, unless I wanted to get out of the room. But I was interested in learning, so they were teaching me as we were watching. And so by the time my senior year came around, and I learned that prior year, so my junior year, I learned about golf with Big Country and Perry Hodge. And then by the time my senior year came around, I was basically hooked. Our senior year, the coaches took us out to have a senior year golf outing at the local Radnor Country Club. And then when I got my first job out of college, all that experience came into play because I basically took store managers out and played golf. So it had a social impact on me, and a player impact on me. I mean, it had an overall impact on me. And then a lot of my classmates, friends started to play. And next thing you know, I was hooked. I mean, I was absolutely hooked. I played with Mr. Irving. I played with Charles Barkley. I played with quite a few other players. And so classmates, Buzz Bass. I mean, there's just a slew of people I played golf with. The guy who really, and when I took my first official lesson, guy by the name of Scott DeLoach, who was a teacher, he was a player. He spent time with me probably 3 weeks in a row as my official, golf tutor, so to speak. So I could throw some names at you: Tony Finau, Willie Mack, Harold Varner III, Cameron Champ. Matter of fact, Cameron Champ just won a PGA Tour event within the past 3 or 4 weeks. He's biracial. And Tony Finau might be of Asian descent or Pacific Islander. So there are, and I actually am an ambassador for the APGA. I didn't really want to say that, but I might as well tell everybody. I was invited to be the ambassador for the Advocates Professional Golf Association Tour, which is a nonprofit organization created by retired Black executives, and the mission is to bring diversity to kids in the inner city and help them elevate not just their golf game, but the golf industry. Mentor kids for in front of the camera, behind the camera, in the tech trucks, groundskeeping. I mean, golf is an industry, right? So if they can mentor kids and show them opportunities to work within the golf industry, that's a good thing. So the APJ is kind of like the minor leagues of baseball, right? You got single A, double A, triple A. So you got the APGA, the Nike League, the Nike Tour, and some of these other tours, and then folks are trying to work their way up to the professional rankings. So I'm happy we have a pro-am here in Montgomery County and Bluebell on September 20th. So the community-based programs, I'm looking forward to learning what they're going to be doing, in the community. So yeah, there's a push to get more kids, and there are kids playing. I mean, the First Tee program is out there, right? So the First Tee is about the kids actually playing golf and getting out off the street, so they have a place to play that's safe. The APJ is kind of like, is different. Yeah, they focus on kids that want to play, but they also focus on the holistic, comprehensive golf industry. So let's see what happens.
I'm excited to hear more about it. But speaking of name dropping, I mean, Tim Fielder's going to drop a name here. Happy Gilmore. He should go to college.
Hey, it's funny? I never watched that movie when it first came out, right? I never watched it when it first came out, but maybe 5 or 6 years later, for some reason, I came upon the beginning of it, and I said, let me watch what everybody's talking about. Because believe me, for years, guys would talk about Happy Gilmore. I'm telling you, guys would talk about one of the funniest movies. And I watched it, and that is absolutely hilarious movie. Absolutely hilarious.
And then George is agreeing with you. Bo Dean is right. He elevated golf to a whole new level. Without Tiger, golf actually was on such a decline that the USGA considered disbanding it. He's saying that Tiger actually saved golf.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, like I said, he brought something to the game that hadn't been seen since Arnold and Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino. I mean, those golden years were great years. great years.
Agreed. And I think not only were the golden years, but what about the comeback years? I mean, his comeback was also inspiring. And unfortunately, he had that horrific car crash last year, and it's, I never want to count Tiger out, but it's going to be a long road back. I mean, he's advanced. He's not going to be able to practice for quite some time, and that was a pretty horrific injury. But he's had a couple of great comebacks. I mean, he has his back. He has his back is typically bothers him, and it's been sidelined several times because of that. But I think his comeback story on both the personal and professional level were inspiring as well. I mean, it's tough to come back after an embarrassment like that too. I think that, yeah. What do you think of that? I just think it is.
Put it this way. I don't think he was injured, severely injured in that car accident where he can't come back and play golf. Right? The question is, will he be able to compete for a major? And if he doesn't win another major, as long as he's playing golf, we as fans will be fine. Why? Because there's the senior tour. So if he never wins another major competing against the younger guys who are playing now, that competition that he has with Phil Mickelson is going to shift to the senior tour. And watch how much money the senior tour starts to make money, because the eyes are going to shift. Some of the eyes and the viewership is going to shift from the PGA to the senior tour, right? To the normal, to the pro tour, to the senior tour. So if he can play, he can beat more than half of the seniors that are competing. The question is, will he be able to beat Phil? Will he be able to beat some of the guys in that age group? So it's only going to shift, and I'm going to watch. Believe me, if he's on the senior tour, Freddie Couples, oh, come on. I'm watching.
Well, it's going to be a very, very sad day for me, the day we start classifying Tiger as a senior. It's downhill for us after that, though.
He's 10 years younger than me. Are you kidding me?
I know. So I prefer not to call him a senior just yet.
The dude is seriously 10 years younger than me. I'm like, what?
I'm going to if we call seniors, I'm going to have to envision him I'm going to classify as a senior in college. Because I cannot accept him as a senior on the golf circuit yet. But.
Well, listen, before we go off the air, I have to do a selfish plug.
Do it.
I am in the fall edition of the Villanova magazine, so I want to thank Villanova and the Villanova magazine staff for offering me the opportunity to be not featured, to be in the notes section of the fall edition. They call it the summer edition, but I think it's the early fall edition of the magazine. So I'm actually in an issue with Brad Inglesby. Is also in the and you know who Brad Inglesby is, right?
I do.
The creator of the Mayor of Easttown. He's a 92 grad, and so I'm pretty excited about that.
And I told you too, next week I am interviewing a Villanova alumnus as well on my Whatever on Wednesday show, and he has a really great, compelling story about he lost his father on September 11th, and he's helping me honor the 20th anniversary of that tragedy. So if it's going to be Villanova week here on Coast to Coast. So if anybody's interested in hopping on that show, next Wednesday I'll have two Villanova alumni with me. I'll have Matt Bochy, then of course Bodine Sanders. So
9/11 is 9/11 is special in terms of remembering folks who lost their lives, and we had quite a few Villanovans, but I had a teammate that lost his life in 9/11, Jeff Dingle, who's in the book. And so, it's not 1 year has gone by within the Villanova family on Facebook, social media, where a lot of our friends remember him and think about him.
So that'll be a great remembrance. And Adrian is from Villanova as well, right? He's putting up his V. He's putting up his V in the comments. I'll bring that up. All right.
V's up.
V's up.
V's up. That's what we call. That's how we say it. V's up.
All right. So we'll have to promote that. And there are a bunch of Villanova groups I meant to post in there tonight, and I forgot. I'll have to do it after the fact. It would be interesting to see if we get some alumni on here. And of course, I am hoping to get my autographed copy of that, the newsletter. And George is saying, great show as always. Have a good week. Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
We want to give George's program a shout out, the Dueling Aces.
Yes.
They had us on Monday, and we had a pretty compelling conversation, and we were very honored and pleased to be on that show as well. So George's show is on Monday nights at 8. So
Absolutely.
Check that out over on YouTube if anybody's interested in that. Another great
Absolutely.
program.
Yep. I look forward to going back. We look forward to going back. Absolutely.
We look forward to going back. And then Justin has said this numerous times, so I want to bring it up. His Tiger Woods' caddy lives in his hometown. So
nice.
Yeah, so that is interesting. And all right, so we're down to the final 3 minutes, Bodine. Where are we going? What are we talking about?
Well, we're approaching the end of the summer, and let's hopefully let's finish out the summer on a positive note, and folks take some time to reflect on their summer and start the fall with a positive attitude, and get ready to move into football season and then the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So let's get mentally prepared for it.
All right, let's get mentally prepared. And I'm going to have to go out. I might have to, is it possible to find a Sanders jersey? I might need that for once we get into the NFL season. I might have to gear up myself.
Well, listen, those 2 jerseys behind me are, I'm pretty sure, the only jerseys that I have. And but you probably could find a Deion Sanders jersey out there, or a Barry Sanders jersey. Those are Hall of Famers. So I don't mind you wearing a 21 or a 20 because you.
I might have to make my own. There's only one Sanders in my heart. I can't put those imposters on. And Adrian's giving us an idea. Next week, we have to talk about the big week 1 college games next weekend, Georgia and Clemson. All right. So is that something that we should be interested in, college football? Am I going to have to brush up on that as well?
Oh, absolutely. With the rivalry game. Oh, come on.
All right.
Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah. Villanova plays Penn State this year.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, up there. No, I mean, if anything, the rivalry games are important to watch because those are the conversations, the water cooler conversations. So when you're talking about, the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and a couple other schools, and now they're trying to expand that. Remember, we talked about that a little bit. So, no, it's time to watch some college football. You don't have to watch it all. But if anything, watch the highlights so you can learn quicker instead of watching, 3 or 4 hours worth of a game, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But yes, college football is getting ready to kick off. Absolutely.
All right. So we may have lost a fan. Tim Fielder saying, wait, this isn't Bo Jackson? And Adrian this is a big game, right? Alabama, Miami. Even I know that, right?
That's a big game.
Roll Tide against the Hurricanes. Yeah,
that's a big game.
Right.
That's a big game.
Right.
That's a big game. Hey, listen, who was the guy that said the Bo Jackson joke? Who's that guy?
Tim Fielder, who's actually, go ahead.
No, Tim, you should pick up my book. Bo Jackson's mentioned in my book, so you should pick it up and find out the story behind it.
So Tim Fielder is one of our buddies here at Coast to Coast, and he's he's taking a break because he's serving our country. So I got to give him a shout out too. So I have a lot of respect for Tim. So a shout out to him too. But yeah, so while you're sitting around, you're taking time off, Tim. Yeah, Bodine's book is worth the read. And you can, yeah, exactly. All right, so as usual, I want to thank you, Bodine. I feel more athletic and more intelligent every time I'm sharing the screen with you. And thank all of our viewers. We have Tim, Adrian, Justin, George, Jason popped in. So we had a great crew tonight, and we always appreciate that. And I appreciate Bo. And of course, I never like to end the night without thanking Chris. We appreciate him behind the scenes as well. It's another great episode. We ran out of time again, 11:02. We're over the mark. So.
Woohoo!
So we'll see everybody next week, and we'll be, pretty soon we might only be talking about football. Well, we still have baseball because we have Adrian. So maybe next week we'll talk about bringing Adrian on. We could have a special guest.
Yep.
All right,
Absolutely.
great. Yep. All right, thanks. You can play us out, Chris. Thanks, everybody.